Well, I refused, but he would not relent. And then I saw how much it meant. $1 for the man inside, but that was how he wore his pride.
No, I
Pride
no,
is
I
all
never
that
was
you
called.
got.
Well, I went to
They've all
junior
gone and
college
you've
for
been
a couple of weeks,
in the winter
twice. You know, I didn't make it past a couple of weeks because then you had to start doing home. No, I was swallowed by the guitar and by singing via Lightning Hopkins when I was like 15 years old. And something about the way he sang and the way he played was so immediate and so transparent. And by that I mean you could see the real person through and behind the music itself. Because music is a doing, it's an activity. It's like running a marathon or something. It's something that a person does. You don't necessarily see the reality of the person when they're running a marathon. But if you're a musician or a singer, you know, sometimes there's a transcendent place you can get to. And the doing becomes transparent and the real person is visible. And he could do that. I mean, I was 15 years old. I grew up in California, in San Jose, Cupertino area. And I swear to God, I heard him on record and I could see Texas. I just knew how dry it was in certain places, how the wind blew. You could hear it in the way that he sang. I could, in the way that he sang. It was amazing to me. So I just wanted to do that. I wanted to do something like that. I wanted to sing and I wanted to play. And I wanted to somehow get to that place where wherever it was that I'd been in my life, certain things could come through. And maybe they could create a circularity with the rest of the people around me and I could like have a life that way. And then I went into my dysfunctional teenager mode, like most people do. But you know, and when you're a dysfunctional teenager, you figure you're worse off than everybody else. So I figured I was worse off than everybody else, and it was a horror show the way I grew up, but it wasn't. But you know, the guitars and the songs they just got me. They just got me. I mean, they were a way, and playing the guitar was a way to have a life, a social life, you know, and meet people, and it was something that I could do and made me feel like I was equal with other people. You know, to begin with, I took jazz guitar lessons because Lightning had been accepted by the jazz community. So I thought, okay, and I took these jazz lessons from this guy that, you know, when I took in a Lightning Hopkins record to, you know, play for him one day, asked him if he could teach me to play this song, he started laughing. Okay, you know, he just laughed, you know. So that was it, and I kind of didn't stop that, and then I got a jug band in high school. I was the leader of the jug band. Or I was the figurehead, I guess, of the jug band because I had the guitar and I could sing. So we did these songs, and then I went to my first coffee house in Saratoga, and that completely lifted off the top of my head for the second time, first time being Lightning, and second time being the coffee house. And that's when I could see what folk songs meant in that era in the place where I grew up, people that were as, I don't know, they were outsiders like I was. I felt, you know, felt like an outsider. You could gather together in these places, a bunch of outsiders, listening to folk songs. And the fact that they were acoustic and they were just played on the guitar, and there was no money involved, there was no stardom, it was an usness that was going on. Whoa, it was amazing. There was a little shelter from the draft that was right around the corner getting at us, you know, all the stuff that was going on at the time. So that lifted my head off, and then I took some lessons from a guy that taught me how to fingerpick. And I learned all of his songs in about 6 months. I learned what they call independent thumb and finger picking, where the thumb does the bass line back and forth and the fingers play a melody. And you work them together to create a pattern which is orchestral. You know, and any more than that I can't do quickly.
Let's do this. You can only be serious for so long. You ever watch somebody try to be serious when they really just don't want to be? Oh, you're never alone, you're never alone, never alone with your clone. You're never alone, you're never alone, never alone with your clone. You can go out for the night and still stay at home. You can call yourself on the cellular phone. You don't need a mirror to see how you've grown. You're never alone with your clone. Well, you can talk to yourself and it won't look weird. You can shave every day and still grow a beard. Have your duplicate personal re-engineered. You're never alone with your clone. Oh, you're never alone, you're never alone, never alone with your clone. You're never alone, you're never alone, never alone with your clone. Where you can walk all the time in the other guy's shoes. You can give up your life for the cause that you choose and watch your reports on the evening news. You're never alone with your clone. Oh, it's a bifocal schizophrenic occurrence, standing in for yourself on a feat of endurance. You can kill yourself, collect the insurance. You're never alone with your clone. Oh, you're never alone, you're never alone, never alone with your clone. You're never alone, you're never alone, never alone with your clone. And you can suffer the victim and be your own thief, both sides of the law. Above and beneath, you can be your own dentist and pull your own teeth. You're never alone with your clone. You can marry yourself if the laws will allow. Have sex with yourself, but don't ask me how. Immediate, instant, the future is now. You're never alone with your clone. Oh, you're never alone, you're never alone, you're never alone with your clone. You're never alone, you're never alone, never alone with your clone. So a song like this has to have a moral at the end of it, you know? Otherwise, what's the point? If you cloned your own clone in multiplication, and there would be no division in your population, and you could be your own united nation, you're never alone with your clone. And clone upon clone, like the fishes in bread, you could so fruitfully settle and spread until the whole wide world was identically bred. You're never alone with your clone. As above and below, in immaculate view, you would look just like God, who would look just like you, and there would be nothing that you couldn't do. You're never alone with your clone. You could write your own warning upon your own wall, a monotonous same, this the clarion call. You would go crazy, and so would we all. You're never alone with your clone. Oh, you're never alone, you're never alone, never alone with your clone. You're never alone, you're never alone, never alone with your clone.
Well, everybody at the time, Bob Dylan, Dave Van Ronk, Buffy St. Marie, what's his name, Anderson, goodness, what's his name, Patrick Skye, just a ton of people, Lou Reed, Velvet Underground. I mean, I was in California, and the rock band thing was, so the Jefferson Airplane, the Grateful Dead, that stuff was all happening, and it was all mixed up in the same thing. See, where I grew up is all mixed up. You know, the first FM station I remember ever hearing was KSAN, KSAN. You know, and they would play Sparrow, who later became Steppenwolf, and they would play Velvet Underground, and they would play Grateful Dead, Country Joe and the Fish, and then they would play this tape that was fabulous of Jorma Kaukonen playing guitar and Janis Joplin singing, and it was a Hesitation Blues, and somebody was using typewriter in the background. You know, and it was amazing. It was just recorded in somebody's living room in the Haight-Ashbury or something. But you hear this stuff. Leadbelly would be on. It was all mixed up. Nobody drew any lines between the things. For a while there, it was just fabulous. So that's how I learned. And I also learned that in all the places I played, and in the music you listened to on the radio too, like KSAN, because there was a draft. I don't remember when the draft was initiated, but if it either wasn't going quite then, it was real soon. I can't remember, but the war was going on, and it was heating up. And there was all the civil rights stuff, and there was the Berkeley free speech movement, the Black Panthers, and all that stuff happening. Because all this was going on, every coffee house that I played in had a political atmosphere to it. Every single one. They were either overt or covert, but they all had it because everybody was affected by it. The bars, not so much. Bars are always different because you can drink and forget. You know, drinking is famous for forgetting. You know, but coffee houses, no, they were all political. And everybody had songs in their repertoire that dealt with the issues of the day. Everybody did. Of course they do. All songs have stories. Sometimes the stories are fragmentary. You know, like a a Picasso or something, certain kind of painting where you suggest the reality and then the person has to read into it. But they all have a story. You know, the cuckoo has a story. Exactly what that is, well, it's up to you to figure out, but they've all got a story in there. Boy, how do I say this? I'm trying to help to recreate the song as a part of our societal toolbox, if that makes sense. We have a lot of things that we can use to make our culture improve, to show ourselves who we are, to remember ourselves. You know, we've got novels and movies and plays, and we've got songs. And songs have been around a lot longer than the music business, and that means also the songs have been around a lot longer than Tin Pan Alley and the popular songs. And which, by the way, pop music. Pop is short for popular. Popular is an adjective, means that most people, the majority, really like it. It's popular. Okay, if that's the case, then it would be impossible to spend the money, spend the time, create a pop song, release it, and have nobody like it. It would be impossible because by definition it's already popular, right? But our language and our use of the word popular has been taken by an industry to mean something that we don't have any control over. So part of what I'm doing is to insist that we take these terms back and that we take the songs back and that we can write songs about ourselves and our friends and the people that we know and our history. And they can not only be good for the time that we live in and the people we live amongst, but can also, with any luck, and if you do your craft well, they might last. And they might become part of the toolbox that we get our stories from and our songs from. Well, let me tell you, people already do that. They already do that. They already do that here. In every folk festival you go to, people already do that. They may not know that they do it. Soldier's Joy is a famous song, right? You know what Soldier's Joy was?
Tell me.
Morphine.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Battlefield. That's battlefield stuff. Civil War. You're shot to bits. You're lying in the tent. The guy comes along, gives you more. That's your fucking soldier's joy, man. That's what soldier's joy is. You're already doing it. You're already singing those songs about ghost bikes and tiles. It's just that you don't know it, because a good song about these things is not going to hit you over the head with, this is what I mean. It's going to tell the story, and at the time, or if I introduce the song, everyone's going to know. Otherwise, it's going to be slightly mysterious. Like Soldier's Joy is slightly mysterious. Well, maybe. I tell you one thing. I do pay attention. I pay attention to a lot of things. I pay attention all the time, and I do dig into things. And I'm curious. I'm quite curious. My example of the greatest song usually is the Midnight Special, which is a song that, according to the story, Leadbelly picked up in the penitentiary system and brought out to the world when the Lomaxes, brought Leadbelly out, and also according to the story of how the song works, is that there was a myth or a legend inside the prison system that there was a train that went by roughly at midnight, and if the light of that train fell on you, then you would be paroled soon. So the chorus is, the Midnight Special, shine its ever-loving light on me, let the Midnight Special shine. Let the Midnight Special shine the light on me so I'll get out of here, okay? Now, the reason I like the song so much, and I think it's so fabulous, it's just a perfectly constructed song, okay? It starts out, the way that I sing it, and I got it from a Leadbelly record, the way that it starts out with this woman is walking, she's carrying a parasol, and she's walking to see the governor. She's got a piece of paper in her hand. And how do I know? Because of the color of her dress and the parasol and the paper, she's going to see the governor to get her man out of prison. Okay, that's how it starts. And then, let the Midnight Special. Then the second verse is about the stuff that you get every day in the canteen is exactly the same, but if you complain about it, you won't get anything. Okay, so that's a little glimpse inside the prison itself. And then the third verse, and there's another verse I never learned, but I don't hear it all that much, but the third verse is a warning that if you ever go to Houston, you better behave yourself, or they'll put you right in here where I am. Okay, so it's a prison song, and it's a warning, and it starts on the outside, goes on the inside, and has a warning to it. If you don't know it's a prison song, if you don't know about the train, the song still works. People love it, sing it all over the world. It still works. If you know what it is, it works on a different level. And that's an important thing about writing songs. I've written a lot of songs about struggles that people went through, events that happened, and I always try to put references in there to specific localized things that happened in that. And I throw them in such a way so that it'll just go by and it'll be a little bit of language coloring. People will go, that's an interesting thing. I won't tell you what it is. It'll just slide by. But if you were there, you'll know what it is. That gives the song several levels. There's a level where you just sing it outside there in the world, and then there's a level of the people who were involved in these things that go, yeah, I know what it's talking about. You can feel separated from me because you're a Greek Orthodox and you have Saint so-and-so, and I don't understand it, and maybe someday I will. And I can feel separate from you because I don't believe in those things, but you do, and maybe someday you'll be enlightened and you'll stop believing. Or we can just laugh, okay? If we can just laugh, if I can tell a joke, or you tell a joke, about the name of something that doesn't insult anybody, but we can all laugh, at least for that period of time when we're laughing, we're all together in the same place at the same time. A door was opened. Maybe we'll remember that door. And then maybe we won't be so isolated anymore. When I was in the village, in Greenwich Village in 1970, I set up a milk crate out in front of the Kettle of Fish, which is a bar, famous bar on McDougal Street, right next to the Gaslight. Okay. I was playing the Gaslight a lot and playing across the street and all that kind of stuff. And in the summertime, the village just fills with people. I mean, it's packed, and they come from everywhere. So I set up my little crate, and I just started playing chords, this kind of Bo Diddley groove. 2 chords, a 5 and a 4. I mean, a 5 and a 1, 1 and 5, whatever. And then I would just start rhyming. People's shoes, purses, hats, coats, and I instantly got a crowd. I mean, it was so packed, it was almost impossible not to get a crowd. But also because I was rhyming people's stuff. It was them, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I was being my own Barker, you could say, Carney Barker. But I didn't have any songs that would work outdoors. Everything I had was internal, sensitive bedroom music. So I just I just stopped, and people would go on. And then I would do it again, and they would stop, and then they'd stop, and they would go on. And I didn't know what to do, and I started playing in rock bars, and somebody said I should go out to the University of Washington to play for the students. They'd love me. So I went out there, and I was really, really nervous. But the only thing that made sense to me is that if I'm going to do this, I can't just stand and be in the background. I've got to get people to me, to have an audience. And the only thing I knew how to do was just start and be loud and just start. So I did. I started just calling out and telling them, and I was giving away free degrees, free PhDs right over here, all this kind of stuff, making it rhyme, and I managed to get a crowd. Anyway, to make I did that on a regular basis, and my introductions got better, and I developed this technique, and I would practice on the street also after playing university before hitting the bars at night. I'd go up on University Avenue and practice it, just get a groove going. Simple, dependable, 3-chord groove on the guitar. Dependable, so I didn't have to think. And then I would just vamp off of everything. And I'm not trying to make any sense, I'm not trying to tell anybody anything. I'm just vamping about dogs and logs and flies and eyes and ties and trees and bees and knees and just kind of, and the wind that's blowing and my hair is snowing and how things are going over there where they're playing the guitars and their auto harps and just kind of, and as you do that, you create tangents in your head. You create, connections in your vocabulary. We all have vocabulary, thousands of words that we all know. They're there, and you lodge them loose, and they start to float around, and they bump into each other, and you create sentences and ideas, and all of a sudden, Santa Claus is the tow truck driver, because if I bring him up, Santa Claus, he should be in the story somehow. Where's Santa Claus? Well, he was a tow truck driver. That's right. But rather than bring me presents, the present he brought me was the auto harp gathering, and maybe I'm the present that he brought to the auto harp gathering itself, maybe some sort of, so he brings me, he deposits me, and then he's gone. And I'm just letting, you just let all the associations lead you somewhere. You don't think too much. Don't think too much. Just a little bit. Watch, it's like surfing. I'm just a guy that plays the guitar. I mean, everybody has secrets and everybody has a beautiful place within themselves. Everybody does. Most people, I don't know if most people, but a lot of people go through life thinking that they have nothing to say. You know, or if they did say something, nobody would listen. And that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy, because the bottom line is it doesn't matter whether anyone listens or not right here. If you start talking and nobody listens here, go somewhere else. And you'll find the people that listen. And maybe you'll find that you weren't speaking as well as you could be, but you'll learn to speak better once you start. Everybody has the right to talk. And everybody has the right to find an audience. You know? So I'm just, I just do this, but plumbers have their stuff and you have yours. Everybody's got something. And everybody has the right to talk. That's it.